Justin, I have seen you perform for the last few weeks, and I must say I am very impressed with your boldness in being able to come out and be creative and different. And I'm just wondering what motivates you to be like that?
I guess it's like an idea of freedom, I suppose. Sometimes I get a little bit bored by, I don't know, the majority of, maybe looking at stand-up comedy, where it's something I've looked at a lot. I don't know, just so few people, and especially people in my generation as such, just don't seem to push any of the boundaries, and they seem to just run over the same tired material. Like,
you don't think you're about 23 now, aren't you? Right?
Yeah.
I always thought your generation was like the new '60s generation. Like, aren't you rebelling against all the Puritanism and hypocrisy of our generation, or mine, I should say?
I don't know. Sometimes I think we're a bit countercultural in that now it's like back in the 60s and 70s it was all cool to be rebellious and stuff, but now everyone's sort of being very sensible, settling down. You know.
So you like the Austin
ecstasy,
Powers
how
today,
ecstasy?
or
Ecstasy is really passé, for example. And how do you sort of? I could get nude at the friend in hand, and it probably wouldn't be that big a deal.
Really?
I reckon. I'm thinking about it actually. The idea of getting nude.
But then that doesn't. So nothing scares you. In other words, like you can just go on stage and you just be totally bold. And
yeah, I think I think it might be turning into a personal exercise of how uninhibited I can get, and the more that I reveal myself on stage, you know, like I got a song called "Saving Myself for Marriage," which is basically a really sarcastic, sexy song about saving myself for marriage. And at the time that I wrote that, I went, my God, this is pretty out there and a bit, you know, confronting for myself, but it was the most fun song that I've got because it's so personal, and I just can't think of anything else remotely like it that sort of exists. And it was basically a piss take. I was sitting in front of Rage watching this song called "Sex with Strangers" by Marianne Faithfull, and it was just really sexy and stuff. And I was getting really frustrated with my own life and my own situation.
Is that what motivates you? Is frustration?
Yeah, a lot.
Frustration of what?
Feeling like I don't belong, fit into what is cool. Like listening to Triple J a lot and watching, I don't know, I sound like some sort of dag, but watching rock bands and people at concerts who just have sex and take drugs and don't really care and just live from one moment to the next, while I'm always sort of carefully plotting my next sentence and going, oh, better think very carefully about what we're doing, Justin, and better be very sensitive and better look after everyone and better look after yourself. And I'm just, yeah.
Do you feel like you're a Robinson Crusoe? That you know, like for me, I feel like there's a whole party going on and I'm isolated. You know, and I'm wondering, maybe there's a whole group of us sitting in our own little bird cages thinking the same thing, and yet there's not one person that can all link us all together and say, hey, we're all messed up. We're all lonely inside, and we're all needing this brotherhood of man like that we had in the '60s. You know, it's just like,
yeah.
Maybe that's what I get that. I get that feeling a lot, especially from guys. I don't know, like I think, don't necessarily hear it from women. I think women can have their own support within women, but guys with guys, there doesn't seem to be much support. Like we're supposed to be like really strong and tough, and you know we can't really reveal our emotions. It's like how are you, mate? You know, have a nice day. Do you feel this?
Yeah, I get sick of guys. Like I've been saying it lately. I get really frustrated with my own gender because it's just the whole barrier thing. Guys have the barrier, and I just don't know how many times I've spent at parties and stuff. Just the whole guy conversation is so predictable. It'll just be yeah, no, and then we'll go and stand in the corner and listen to some music.
So what do you want to happen? Like, do you?
I guess maybe I want to be like Captain Insecurities, and if you're Robinson Crusoe, then I'll be sort of some sort of superhero that celebrates being so insecure and awkward all the time. Because I think pretty much that's at the heart of every single thing I do, is just me trying to poke fun at how insecure and awkward I am most of the time.
See, that's fascinating. How can you distance yourself from that?
Find strength in it. Make
like,
fun of it. Don't bow down to it. Like, just treat it like a part of yourself, like any other part of yourself, and accept that, yeah, I'm most likely going to be really shy at a party and bumble around and worry about myself all the time. But by actually, like, writing a funny... I got a song, Happy Cow, which is like, I'm feeling awkward like a budgie sitting on Sandra Sully's head as she reads the news about something quite devastating, perhaps an earthquake, and I don't know where to look. And it's finding it some ridiculous... I'm just making fun of the fact that I'm so insecure. And
isn't that being secure in itself though? Like by doing that,
for myself.
Yeah, well, you're using that as some sort of vehicle to gain confidence and security, as I see, because you have to have that in order to step out and make light of yourself. I mean, you basically do that from what I've seen. Like you poke fun of society and yourself, which is something I can't quite get to. That's what I'm trying to find that you've got. And I'm just wondering, were you always like that? Were you always, you're always happy and zest? I mean, you seem like you got zest for living.
Yeah, I do. And I guess I feel safe. I feel a lot safer on the stage now. And maybe it's my own little protest. Like, I've spent enough time sitting quietly in my room, reading magazine, reading Juice, and going, fuck, this isn't my generation. Like, I don't belong to this sort of hip happening, corporate sort of music world, and I couldn't find any art that represented me. I couldn't find any artist or comedian or musician that sort of captured what I was about. So, do other guys think like you too, or do you feel that you're different? I think so. Well, they do. I don't know if they necessarily maybe say, like, come up to me and go, oh yeah, I'm really awkward too. Like, that'd be a pretty awkward conversation to have. Well, but I like to think that every single person goes through the exact same stuff, but it's just like, it's the stuff that no one ever talks about because it's the stuff you don't talk about because there's just no way of talking about it. Like, it's just, when does that come up in conversation to say, oh yeah, by the way, I'm pretty socially inept most of the time and I put myself down in my head a lot, like, so is that why people have these poetry groups? Is sort of like, if you can't say it like in a conversation, because we're all so plastic with our cheesy grins and plastic smiles, that we have to have poetry as a vehicle that everything we can't say to another human being and communicate, we can say out there. And then maybe someone else looking at it saying, I've got that problem too. But it's a veer. Don't you find that it's a sort of a cop out in a way, It's binge communicating. I've figured out what we do. You spend a week doing your day-to-day stuff, interacting with people. Meanwhile, millions of things are going on in your head, and once a week you get to say the things you really want to say, all in one hit to an audience of people. It's you might. And that's the best this generation can do now, isn't it? Well, I don't know if it's just performers. I don't know if it's necessarily everyone, but most performers, you get them off stage and they sort of don't want to carry a conversation, but yet they'll get on stage and reveal the most intimate. So it's a substitute for real communication. All the things you can't say make good artists. I think so. I've once read a quote somewhere that basically said a really good writer should be pretty boring at parties, but if someone's really interesting and fascinating, then they'll be a boring writer. Basically saying I can sort of see the point. Or, I don't know if it works like that. I mean, for me, I have a lot of angst and problems, but I just feel like with you, so were you a popular kid at school, or how would you describe yourself? Like? No, I feel like I've been the same character my whole life. Just feeling a bit. I had really thick glasses and got called Coke bottles all the time, and I was basically a novelty. I was novelty value. All the big tough kids would come up to me and go, "Fuck, your glasses are thick. Can I try them on?" And I'd be a bit of a laughing point most of the time, and I'd sort of mock myself at the same time and go along with it. And I've probably been doing that my whole life. Just putting myself out there and expecting to be sort of a kind of novelty value, but I guess I've just accepted that as my lot. But you're getting the people laughing with you now. Do you notice that? They're on your side. Do you feel that? Yeah. I feel the audience are more with you than they are with me. I mean, am I wrong, or is it like because you, I don't know, you look confident. Are you confident? Do you feel confident? Yeah, I do. I've just done enough gigs to It's only from doing enough gigs to finally feel safe on stage, basically. Feel confident that even if, you know, everyone boos you and throws stuff at you, that it doesn't matter.
So then wouldn't you get to a point where you go through that and you will have no more awkwardness about you? And then you won't be an artist anymore, will you?
So I could lose my greatest asset.
Was that like John Cleese? Isn't that what happened? He had therapy and he was no longer funny?
I didn't know.
Yeah, that was after Connie Booth's divorce, but it's another story anyway.
Yeah.
So is there any piece that really typifies you that you've done in your poetry pieces or anything like that? I mean, is there any one piece that you can think of that really delivers your message?
Well, so it's probably, I mean, I wrote a song called Everybody's Got the Same Insecurities as You. I mean, that's the chorus. And yeah, and it's basically saying I had a crush on a girl in year 12 and she thought I was too cool for her and I thought she was a snob, that she was just shy, and I certainly didn't think I was too cool for her. But that's just, yeah, it's about the things you think about it. You think you're a mind reader. Everyone goes around thinking they're mind readers and assuming they know what people are thinking about them, but we don't at all. And I just think that's the greatest. If there's one thing that I'm trying to get through that's important, then it's we're all really insecure and we're all worrying about ourselves and other people all the time. So if we can just get that out there and just sort of throw it out there, we'll all just relax and have fun, you know.
So it's just the frustration. Do you have any inner anger as well? Like, is there any burning anger, or is it not coming from that at all? Like, you don't have any of that. It's just a bit of frustration with the way the world is. No,
I mean, this has been my year of getting angry. And I moved to Sydney last year, and I hated Sydney's guts, and up until very recently. And I wrote a hate poem about Sydney.
Why? What's wrong with it?
I came here and things didn't go very well, and I ended up feeling really lonely, and I guess some people would say I'm just blaming the place, and maybe I am. It just seemed really, all this shit stuff happened in a city that happens to be really massive and fast and kind of huge, and I'm from Tasmania, and it's pretty big for me.
So what would you want Sydney to be your ideal state if you were?
Well, since I wrote the poem, and I've gradually, it keeps winning me over more and more, and I'm actually having a really good time here, and I guess it's the people, probably. I've just created my own scene here.
So is it reaching your ideal state yet, or is it still got a long way to go? I mean, how would you want to see Sydney? Would you want to see people more, you know, maybe is it the hippie environment that we're missing? I mean, is there any element?
Yeah, I just, it pisses me off walking down Newtown and just seeing all these sort of bohemian, edgy, arty looking people that just look like they wouldn't give you the time of day, or like saying hello's passé these days, or, you know, being friendly is just so twee. That sort of attitude, like we're all post everything. So there's no bad family life that you had, is there? Like there's no real angst or anything that you're trying to overcome or anything like that. It's just a general feeling of frustration with today's current society. So it's, in other words, it's not really a neurosis within you. No, I don't think so. It's just an urge to want to help people get them out of their own heads.
Right. Hence probably why you're coming from a lighter space, because it's like, I think we both have the frustration of society, and maybe I'm still trying to work out something, whereas maybe you've already got that sussed out.
I don't have any grudges against anyone.
Yeah. Maybe anger, do you think anger holds people back and stops people from being bold and, as you say, doing all those outrageous things?
I guess it can, yeah. But if you can harness it, it can drive you to go up on stage and do something about whatever you're angry about.
Fair enough. Did you want to say anything there?
I was just going to say.
All right. Okay. You do your
I was just
Justin.
going to say, thanks very much, guys. Thank you for that. I think we'll probably cut that.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, that was great.
Yep,
Thank
yep.
you.
A little bit higher.
Rolling.
Oh, okay.
Oh, we didn't mark that one. Oh,
Quiet on the floor, please. Yeah.
okay. Are we rolling?
Yeah, we are. Quiet on set.
Okay, take one.
Cheers, you're looking at the camera.
Yeah, no, don't look at the camera, look at me. It's just a fireside chat.
Hold on, Patrick.
Rolling?
Rolling.
Okay. Documentary Tap Gallery, 13th of August. Justin. Okay, so your kind of contact with myself and with Michael is through the Friend in Hand. How long have you been involved in that poetry night there?
Just about February this year.
Okay, only recently.
Yeah, the first gig I did in Sydney last year, did a support for a magazine launch, and Tug Dumbly was supporting as well. And after it, Benito came up to me and just told me about the night and said I should come along and play.
Sure. Was that when you first moved to Sydney? Because you said you
yeah, just about. It was just a month before I moved.
Oh, great. So how would you kind of describe your own work? Do you think it's autobiographical, or do you try and come up with stories to express something? Or
yeah, it's a bit hard. I spent so long writing my bio. I did so many different versions of it, just trying to think, how do you... It's a bit hard describing yourself. You don't want to define it too much, I think, and then you don't want it to be too vague. But sure. I suppose it's playful and it's hopefully very Australian. I try to make it very Australian. And it's definitely autobiographical. I think the segment I had on Triple J, I had a bit of a character as such, which is probably summed up by the song Home Brand Man, celebrating home brand stuff. And I think the character, you could imagine him to be a sort of maybe 19-year-old, maybe first year uni, a little bit daggy and broke all the time and dreaming about girls and I guess it really is just me. My character is just the amplified version of me, I suppose.
Do you find when you get up on stage that you do adopt a persona? Because a lot of what you were saying before when you were talking to Michael was about using that as a forum to overcome insecurities and that kind of thing, to push your boundaries. Do you find you need to adopt a persona to do that, or...?
I think I do. It's certainly not a conscious thing. I don't go, right, we're going to step into character now, but I get myself so worked up before a gig. Like, I get so nervous, and it's like all this nervous energy gets really channeled somehow, and it sort of consumes me, and often after a gig I sort of go, oh, that was a bit of a blur, really. And I've got up on the Friend in Hand and knocked over the whole mic stand and stuff before, and I haven't even meant to, and I'm sure people must think, oh, he must have rehearsed that, but I'm genuinely really clumsy. Like, I get up and I'm so frantic to get on with things and thinking about what I'm doing. And when I talk in between songs, often I'm just sort of a rambling idiot, but I kind of like it. I guess it's just a freedom to, if I was at a party or something, I certainly wouldn't carry on like that. Yeah.
So what do you do to psych yourself up before a gig?
The gig starts sort of as soon as you wake up in the morning. The whole day, you've got that gig on at night, and you basically you're on the bus and you're thinking about maybe what you're going to say and trying to get it all organised. It's not really a conscious decision. I just end up naturally. I get myself so worked up because I'm just quite a nervy sort of person, and I don't know if maybe 5 years down the track I've done so many gigs that I'm going to be really calm and collected, but hopefully it never wears off.
Sure. So you find that nervous energy is something which you try and exploit and use when you're performing?
That's one of the reasons I don't drink. I never drink before a gig, because I just think that if I had a beer, I'd relax a bit, and as soon as I relaxed, I'd sort of lose the mojo that I need. I need to be on edge and sort of a bit panicky, going, don't know how this is going to go,
Sure.
and that turns into me on stage.
Sure. Do you draw any distinction between when you're delivering just a poem or when you're doing one of your songs in terms of the energy that you use? I'm just thinking back to a comment I heard you make on last night about your songs being quite light-hearted, but then appreciating the Friend in Hand as being able to be a bit more serious, maybe, with just the spoken stuff.
Yeah. I've only started doing poetry in the last couple of weeks because I'm sort of co-hosting while Tug Dumbly's away in Edinburgh. And the first 5 gigs I did was just I'd do nothing but songs. And I don't know, I think I heard a sort of comment somewhere that someone might have said, he just does songs, as in, it's just not poetry. And it doesn't really mean that much, but I sort of felt compelled to, I guess, want to prove myself, that I prove to people that I can, do poetry. And it's not often that I get to explore that. It's a totally different side of me. And it is a lot darker, and in some ways it's not sort of bubble wrapped for the audience like a funny song sort of is. It's you take that sort of protection away and you're just delivering sometimes quite a bleak picture and just accepting that that's okay and that people will be okay with that. So I'm really enjoying it, the balance.
Yeah. So what, predominantly before that you were just a songwriter, or did you engage in other kind of creative endeavours?
Yeah, I did professional writing at uni. You know, did a lot of short story writing, and I haven't done a whole lot of poetry writing. And I tried, wrote a full-length play. But yeah, I suppose the songs are definitely, at the end of the day, it's the music that gives me the most satisfaction, because you can just share it with people so easily.
I hear you've got a new CD out.
Yes. It's just here. Yes, it's a lot of work went into it.
So how long have you been working on the songs in that compilation?
It was a result of a segment I had on Triple J last year. I'd write a song for the morning show once a week for about 6 months. It was basically my dream break, my dream come true, and it's been the big neck cutting off moment of my life.
Yeah, battery's dying.
Battery's dying, okay.
Is it just over there, is it?
No, it's not here.
Yeah, we'll find a minute, we're rolling.
Okay. It's always so interrupting. Are you sure it's the tally one? Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, do you, just a few other questions that I'll ask before we go. Do you use poetry as predominantly your own personal expression, or do you hope to kind of achieve some kind of change in the audience? What's your focus behind doing it?
At the moment, it's just because it's quite new doing poems at the Friend in Hand. It probably is. I mean, it's a little bit there's a little competitive streak in me, I guess. Ever since I heard that comment about, he just does songs, I actually took it really personally. And just like, what? Oh well, I'll show you. Yeah. I can write poems as well. So I guess I'm just doing it. I like the idea of changing what I do and changing my character and not getting, too set into one idea. So I like the thought that people might go, hang on, that was a bit dark, and Justin doesn't do really dark stuff. Yeah. I like challenging the audience, I suppose. Yeah,
getting a broader spectrum of stuff. All my little things. I think that's probably, pretty much all the questions I had. Is there anything in particular that you want to vent before we say it? Quickly say.
This is available by email, and all the money goes towards paying back my nan and pop.
Beautiful. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Anyway, welcome to Bardflys.
Well, the Friend in Hand is more of a pub-based situation where I usually find a younger audience goes there.
It's one of those rare occasions I wrote something that doesn't involve drinking.
Like, it is quite a different environment, like Friend in Hand, so it's in a pub.
So I gave up on sobriety and I dived into the peculiar sea of a local piss hole where the patrons garbled and yarbled in the pidgin English of pub.
The whole heart on your sleeve thing doesn't work very well there.
Sure.
It's better here. I do all my kind of smarter stuff at the pub.
I can't bear children. They're noisy and expensive and can't hold a conversation very well. They expect too much for very little return, and then eventually they turn into teenagers.
As Robert likes to call it, it's more of the thinking man's intellectual sort of type thing here at the art gallery.
There are people out there who write books, and that's one of the reasons why this place and Club Taps become very important, because it is an intermediary step between the people who perform, I would say, at the Friend in Hand, who aren't writing books, at least I don't think they are,
But I ate my clock. I'm alert and probably alarmed for 7:30. The radio slid soundly down my esophagus like a crunchy bar with braille.
This is a place that will give them a platform in order to write books.
Prelude to Party. Sometimes a person may elevate one spiritually and vice versa. It's a beautiful feeling and yet totally uninhibited.
It's an ideal space. We don't have hecklers.
I've seen a lot of people get up and do really heartfelt stuff at the pub and really kind of get bagged out and just, shake the whole time.
I nearly got beaten up last week, so I'm not going to tell any jokes.
Yeah, just I think that's what is the thrill of it. Basically, is that not only are you being entertained, but you got the adrenaline rush that you know that pretty soon you're going to have to get up there and entertain others as well. I was going to do something a bit lighter, but since the cameras are rolling, I've got to have a bit of
That's what it is. A
little bit of atmosphere. You know what I mean?
It's often personal statements from the heart, so there's quite a strength but a vulnerability there too when I'm on stage.
I get myself so worked up before a gig, like I get so nervous, and it's like all this nervous energy gets really channeled somehow, and it sort of consumes me, and often after a gig I sort of go, oh, that was a bit of a blur really, and I've got up with a friend in hand and knocked over the whole mic stand and stuff before, and I haven't even meant to.
Is anyone on the dole at the moment? It's just me.
It's playful and it's hopefully very Australian. I try to make it very Australian. And it's definitely autobiographical.
You look divine in the centre link line, wearing designs from 1999. Your fortnightly form employs my eyes. It's a full-time job and I can't lie.
But you're getting the people laughing with you now. Do you notice that? They're on your side. Do you feel that?
Yeah.
I feel the audience are more with you than they are with me. I mean, am I wrong, or is it like because you, I don't know, you look confident.
I wanted to make a general inquiry and read you all of my diary. I could line up for hours in your eyes, yeah. I wanted to ask for your name, your date of birth, your customer reference number. Forget Medicare, baby, I'll give you ready care.
Hence probably why you're coming from a lighter space, because it's like, I think we both have the frustration of society, and maybe I'm still trying to work out something, whereas maybe you've already got that sussed out.
I don't have any grudges against anyone.
Because it's always that loss. It's that loss that gives the greatest grief, the greatest pain, and the greatest passion. And I suppose this is where the works of the Marquis de Sade come in. It says, it's basically pain is a lot stronger than the pleasure, and of course it's if it has that pain element, it has that magnetic pull about it. God Zeus created women, or should I say, a woman, to destroy all of mankind. If I sound a little bit misogynistic to anyone, tough luck. He created a woman called Pandora, and he gave her two things. He gave her a curiosity, which he knew she could not contain, and he gave her a box that he told her not to open. So the more tortured the society becomes, the more poets there will be, I guess.
While you get back to earning money more, which it seemed to me was our state religion. So I got this job ringing people and hassling them about the job they were doing, ringing some people and hassling them into buying some consumer durable drug or exotic drink, so they could forget about how much they hated their job, ringing people and hassling them into buying some consumer durable drug or exotic drink, so that their bosses could ring and hassle my bosses into hassling my supervisor, into hassling me, into hassling you about the level of harassment you're being receiving of late from the makers of fine consumer durable drugs and exotic harassment.
So is that why people have these poetry groups? It's sort of like, if you can't say it, like in a conversation, because we're all so plastic with our cheesy grins and plastic smiles, that we have to have poetry as a vehicle that everything we can't say to another human being and communicate, we can say out there. And then maybe someone else looking at it saying, I've got that problem too.
I was writing a do-it-yourself poetry for my dad for his birthday one time. I was writing the steps for what he had to do, and one was to write down all the really clever things that he'd ever thought of to say, but he never had the opportunity to say them. And in a poem, you can just do them all.
Yeah. For me it's kind of like editing what you're saying to something more salient and meaningful so that you sound kind of smarter than in a normal situation, hopefully.
It's not so much about avoiding a cliched happy ending. It's far more about not having wasted an entire afternoon struggling to say the same thing I always say, which is that communication is a struggle, and wanting to communicate is even more of a struggle. And the only way I have found to best communicate anything is to point out how incomprehensible it all seems to be.
You know?
It's binge communicating, I've figured out what we do. You know, you spend a week doing your day-to-day stuff, interacting with people, meanwhile, you know, millions of things are going on in your head. And once a week you get to say the things you really want to say, all in one hit, to an audience of people. I'm feeling awkward, like a duchy, sitting on Santa Sally's head as she reads the news about something quiet and steady, perhaps an earthquake, and I don't know what to do. I'm feeling insecure, like an emu hosting the Oscars for the first time, trying to read the nominations, but just pepping the microphone.
Like for me, I feel like there's a whole party going on and I'm isolated. You know, and I'm wondering, maybe there's a whole group of us sitting in our own little bird cages thinking the same thing, and yet there's not one person that can all link us all together and say, hey, we're all messed up, we're all lonely inside, and we're all needing this brotherhood of man like that we had in the 60s, you know. It's just...
But it's a wedding, and I'm here by myself. And the only thing worse than being alone at a wedding is being sober and alone at a wedding. So a pit stop at the pub was mandatory.
I think the world would be a better place if people got together. And you know, you can only do that through communication.
Over their shoulders in the distance, I noticed a family of kangaroos hopping out of the bushes. And as I got closer, I noticed there was something unusual about them. Well, they had no skin, no eyes, no lips. They were destined to die. They were going to die. But the male was hopping, and the rest of his mob just followed the hops. But they didn't make a sound. And, I don't know, I could never ever put it into words, so I managed to hide behind this thing, this ditch, so-called ditch. I couldn't find my wooden ditch, so I stole the bottom half of my mum's outdoor umbrella. Yeah, she's got spiritual lines out. But, well anyway, because I didn't make a sound, I'll make one for them now. This is bushfire.
If we could all, like, exercise all these demons out of us, I guess we would have no more poets in the world, because everyone would be happy and dancing and playing and singing. So.
She said, what is in there? What is in that room? Why is the door locked? A coldness came over her husband. He looked at her with eyes that were both angry and frightened. And he said, you know, you must never, ever attempt to enter that room.
But that's the thing, I suppose poets are around because we live in a tortured society.